Edgar, very good to see you today.
Thanks for having me.
You are my lucky charm, and I'm not doing this job without you. Your waitress girlfriend, she's cute. Let's keep it that way. I have to drive again. It's not what I want.
And what do you want?
To get out of here. You in?
I'm in, baby.
We are 24 hours from being descended upon by this entire city.
Have you been talking about us?
Supposed to squeal on the road, not to the cops.
Baby Driver would mark, I believe, sort of your first solo writing credits since, probably back since A Fistful of Fingers back in the 90s.
That's true.
So how did you find the experience of putting the screenplay together?
Writing solo for the first time in a long time, it was more difficult because it's a lonelier process writing on your own. When you're writing comedies with other people, it's always fun because you got somebody to bounce off. But writing this was a bit trickier because I sort of was just there sitting on my own doing it, and you know, I think you always end up looking for sort of validation from friends and like, you know, anybody who's walking past, or like you say, hey, will you read this scene? Tell me what you think. What I did end up doing, which was amazing and invaluable for the movie, is I started interviewing a lot of ex-cons. So ex-bank robbers and ex-getaway drivers who have actually really been in these situations. I would do interviews with them, and that would always be a source of inspiration. And then one particular guy, whose name was Joe Lawyer, he ended up being the script consultant on the movie. And so he's somebody that I would interview him, and then sometimes I would say, will you read the scene and tell me what you think? Or do you know a character like this? And it was just amazing to be able to talk to somebody who's actually been there and done some of these things to get their view on what I was writing that was fiction.
All right, and you prefer to write from a perspective of truth.
Well, I think the thing is, I think the thing is, I kind of came up with the scenes that were in my head, and then it's sort of the other way around, is that sort of like I'd written the script and the outlines and the characters, and then I would talk to these real people and say, have you ever been in a situation like this? Or do you know somebody like this? Or like, what do you think of this in terms of like the authenticity? And you would get kind of a number of responses, and sometimes it would spark them off with a story that you could use some of that detail within the scene. Or they could say sometimes that doesn't feel true to me, and you could change what you've done. So it was an amazing process to be able to have written an original screenplay and then run it past like real life bank robbers and say, what do you think of this?
You've been my driver for every job since we met. You're the best in the business. I'm gonna need you behind the wheel again.
One more job and I'm done.
One more job, then we're straight.
Hey, baby.
Why is he listening to music all the time?
He had an accident when he was a kid.
He's got mental problems.
I'm the one got the mental problems in the crew. Position taken.
What is your name?
Baby.
Your name's Baby. B-A-B-Y, baby.
In this business, the moment you catch feelings is the moment you catch a bullet.
Along with what you've detailed as a very intricate process when it comes to the realism of sort of the events, the film itself also has a very distinct connection to its soundtrack, with with the characters sort of moving in time with the music, and everything's looks very tightly choreographed. How was all that set up?
It was basically like, I had done some scenes like that before in my career, right back to sort of Spaced and Shaun of the Dead, where there was like moments of like choreography. And in Shaun of the Dead, there's a scene where they attack a zombie set to Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. And when I did that scene back then, I'd already had the idea for Baby Driver, but when doing that Queen scene, it was the first time I'd worked with a stunt choreographer and a dance choreographer at the same time. And I really enjoyed that experience, and the audiences really responded to that scene. So I started to think, when people would ask me, what's Baby Driver like? I say, well, you know the Queen scene from Shaun of the Dead? It's like that for the whole thing. So basically on the set, you know, we had a choreographer there the entire time. And we rehearsed a lot of those scenes. And then the great thing with this movie was actually the stunt coordinators and dance choreographers working together to create things that hopefully are pretty unique, like the gunfights and, you know, the foot chases and the car chases that are all like set to the music. But then even like smaller moments, like one of my favorite bits in the film is where Baby is supposed to be listening to Kevin Spacey's briefing, and he has his headphones in and he starts sort of playing piano on the table. And that, to me, like a tiny moment like that, which is all choreographed, that is basically the movie.
I particularly like that scene as well,
that's
actually.
cool. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Let's talk it. The target is an armored truck at Perimeter Trust, 10 a.m. sharp. Bank is right next to it. The switch car, baby, hit the long stay parking structure. Restart in the a.m. Questions?
I got a question, Doc. Why would I believe phones over here heard the goddamn word you said? He ain't even listening. Baby?
The target is an armored truck at Perimeter Trust in Dunwoody, 10 a.m. sharp. The switch car is ready, but you want me to hit the long stay parking structure and get a heist vehicle that stays colder longer? It needs to be ready for an 8:30 start. Questions?
So I've been hearing like a lot of sort of wacky stories about sort of like your times on the set, the legendary blooper reels attached to most of your films. What would you say would be like your favorite moment on set making the film?
That's a good question. I actually didn't put an outtakes thing on this. On the Blu-ray of Baby Driver, there's no like outtakes because there are some funny things, but because it's a thriller, I think sometimes you don't want to show like the people kind of like cracking up and stuff because you want to, you know, the other ones are comedies and it's kind of more fun to see comedy actors breaking up. But with this, but in terms of favorite moments on the shoot, I think that like shooting the foot chase is one of my favorite moments actually, like because, you know, shooting a foot chase is an interesting thing because as a unit you have to keep moving. So every single shot, the camera, like we're moving down with the actor, because like within like, you know, 15 seconds he's gone like 2 city blocks, you know. I think the other scenes I really enjoyed doing were the scenes with C.J. Jones, who plays Baby's foster father, who is a deaf actor, and those scenes with Ansel and CJ together were very sort of like fun and also emotional to make.
Yeah, I totally agree. I personally think that that those moments are like some of the best you've made, honestly, because being able to sort of communicate all that emotion through like one character who can't even talk, like that takes a lot of skill, and even some like the better filmmakers I've seen not do so well with that. So.
Well,
yeah.
I think that came from actually the fact that CJ is, you know, a deaf performer. And when I cast him, I wasn't aware really that it was as big a deal as it was because, you know, a lot of times people with disabilities are played by actors who are pretending to have that disability.
Passing, yeah.
So actually, working with a deaf actor was an incredible experience for me and Ansel, and I think every time I see those scenes, I get quite misty-eyed because I loved working with CJ and he was amazing.
This is sort of a personal question. One of my personal favourite sort of works of yours is Don't, the trailer made for Grindhouse. Eli Roth has been talking for like a long time about turning his own trailer into like a full-fledged film. Any chance of that happening with Don't?
Here's the thing. I'm gonna like this might not be the answer you want to hear, but like Robert Rodriguez made Machete. They made a movie of Hobo with a Shotgun. Rob Zombie and Eli Roth have both been talking about making movies of werewolf women of the SS, and Eli Roth have been talking about doing Thanksgiving. But I, Edgar Wright, never want to make a movie of Don't because you've already seen the best version of Don't and it's 90 seconds long. Because part of the idea with the Don't trailer is it's like you're watching an American trailer for a European movie. So my thought is that the movie of Don't has a completely different title in Europe, and that they just like try to give it this punchy title in the States. And at no point in any of the trailer do they say what the plot is. And so when I was coming up with that trailer idea, the idea was to have all this disparate imagery so you would watch, like you do sometimes with old 70s trailer going, what is that movie about? What is the story? So the truth is there is no story to Don't. And so it will never be a movie in its own right. However, I would like to do a straight horror film at some point. So if I ever did anything that was in that direction, it would actually be like a real horror movie.
Sort of your whole filmography is filled with a lot of these little touches meant to reference other films, like the We're Coming to Get You, Barbara scene from Shaun of the Dead, and the entirety of Hot Fuzz referencing like buddy cop movies. it also seems like nowadays that like filmmakers are kind of scared to, you know, reveal where the magician gets their secrets from. So what is it that makes you sort of wear your influences as much on your sleeve?
Well, I think, you know, for example, in this movie, you know, Walter Hill, who wrote and directed the movie The Driver from 1978, which is one of my favorite movies, and without which this movie probably would not exist. He plays a cameo in the movie right at the end of the movie. And I don't want to reveal where he is, but basically in the last 5 minutes of Baby Driver, you hear Walter Hill's voice. So that to me is me paying respects to him. It's like asking him to do a cameo, and it's like a sort of a spiritual, like sort of nod. But that's important to me. I think sort of, you know, it to me it's important to kind of lay bare your inspirations and pay reverence to them. You know, I don't see why you wouldn't do that.
We're getting out. I have to end this.
What's happening, baby?
That's some Oscar shit right there.
Something's up, baby.
Get out of the car.
Oh, my purse!
I'm sorry, ma'am.
All right.
That was great, man.